Pioneer Square plan. He came up with a sophisticated plan. He picked out backup parking spaces. He mapped out an escape route to I-5. He was planning this for a long time.
No more questions.
Court adjourned until 9 tomorrow morning.
Thursday morning started with a discussion of admissible evidence before the jury was seated.
Your Honor, our defense depends on the assertion that the agents were not acting to assess the defendant, but rather to craft evidence leading to a conviction. In order to do this, we need to attack the integrity of the investigation. Agent Bill Smith's intent was not deemed relevant and not admitted. Some evidence from Agent Trustis was similarly denied. As you know, after several of the undercover meetings, the agents forgot to turn off their microphones, and the jury needs to hear this. For example, after the August 19th meeting, all of the agents are excited that the kid took the bait. This is the opposite of what the agents are claiming on the stand, that they are sympathetic and were trying to dissuade him.
I'm concerned that these outtakes would be more prejudicial than probative. If you want to impeach the witness, you have to lay the foundation. Ask him, were you excited? And if he says no, then you can play the clip.
The outtakes are important in two ways. Factually, and the tone of the agent's voice is also telling. It shows most clearly the agent's true intent.
The defense needs to ask factual questions. If there's a denial, you can play the clip.
Your Honor, you have allowed the prosecution to show the jury full issues of jihad recollections, complete with images of Osama bin Laden and of the flaming Twin Towers in the 9/11 attacks. The outtakes from undercover meetings are certainly less prejudicial, more probative, and more pertinent. They are independently admissible.
That's not clear.
May I play the tapes if there is a contradiction with testimony?
Only if there is a direct denial. That's my decision. Call in the jury.
Public Defender Lisa Monet then began her cross-examination of undercover FBI agent Hussein. Press and public are still sequestered to protect his ongoing cover. Miss Monet starts by going over the agent's training.
You've worked as a police officer?
Yeah, for like 20 years.
You've been full-time with the FBI since 2004?
Yeah.
You've spent considerable time working in narcotics.
Yeah.
Undercover operations?
Yeah.
You are familiar with informants working their way up the drug chain?
Yeah.
Prior to your first meeting with the defendant on August 19th, you had planned meetings with other agents.
Yeah.
Roles were planned out.
Yeah.
Part of the plan was for Yusuf to say that you were a religious person.
I am a Muslim.
You treated the defendant like a kid.
He was an adult.
You asked if he had to be home at a certain time.
Yeah.
You praised and flattered him and called him an amazing 18-year-old.
I was developing rapport.
You are aware that the recording devices were left on after this meeting.
Yeah.
You don't use religious language then.
True.
You testified that the defendant came up with the Pioneer Square plan on his own.
He did.
Let's listen to a clip from that meeting.
My son, I love your poetry. It is so inspirational. I've been doing this for like 30 years, and I can tell you, you are an amazing 18-year-old. I love you already. So what do you want to do?
Well, last time, me and a brother,
What we discussed is private. You are the diamond in the rough. Just tell him what is in your heart.
Did Yusuf direct the defendant to answer about Pioneer Square?
I wouldn't say that.
If Yusuf hadn't interrupted him, he might have said
object,
something else.
asking the witness to speculate.
Sustained.
You testified that you knew almost nothing about the defendant before your first meeting on August 19th.
Yeah.
So you were unaware that the FBI was emailing the defendant since November 2009. That FBI agent Bill Smith first suggested taking action in the West. That the defendant had been under surveillance for a year.
I didn't know about any of that.
You were aware of the July 30th meeting,
Yes.
where the recorder didn't work.
I'm not the electronics expert.
Did you have access to FBI emails sent in August, September, and October describing the defendant as easily manipulable, religiously conflicted, and in search of guidance? And didn't these emails describe to you in detail what you were supposed to do and say?
I never read those emails.
Did you have access to FBI emails sent in August, September, and October describing in detail what you were supposed to do and say, and weren't these instructions based on the defendant's psychological profile?
I was CC'd, but I never opened those emails.
In August, September, and October, there were
We've covered this, Ms. Monet. Move on.
When the tape recorder is left on, you are out of role.
Yeah.
You talked about what occurred.
Yeah.
You talked about next steps.
Yeah.
After the August 19th meeting, you talked about having the defendant do things in a way that would look sexy.
If that's what it says there.
On September 7th, the tapes were left on again.
Yeah.
And you asked, is everything off?
Yeah.
So you were speaking freely.
Yeah.
And you said, we have enough evidence.
Yes.
You didn't even want to debrief. You said, I'm done here. He's cooked.
If you say so.
Is that what you said?
Object. Asked and answered.
Sustained.
Do you recall discussing the humiliation of Muslims around the world?
Enroll.
And you reinforce him when he speaks of violence.
I don't think so.
Let's refresh your memory. This is from your first meeting with the defendant.
Do you see where Polish troops shoot Afghan women for fun?
Yeah, just like dogs. He is very inspirational. Yes, I love what I see and hear. Is he really capable?
I think so. You know, you can leave anytime you want. This isn't for everyone.
Yeah, there's no shame in leaving. Not everyone can do this. So what do you want to do?
Is this an example of you and your partner giving him an out?
We gave him a way out at every meeting. He was determined to kill Americans.
In the exchange we just heard, you do not even engage the defendant, do you?
I disagree.
In fact, he doesn't say a word.
If he said stop, we would have stopped right away.
You don't give him a chance to respond. You state that there was no shame and then ask about a task.
I wouldn't describe it that way.
Would it sound that way to the defendant?
That's fine.
Do you recall the defendant talking about being a rapper?
Yeah.
Getting a gangsta gun?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you call that a teenage fantasy?
He sounded dangerous.
Did you promise him a souped-up rapper truck when it was all over?
Yeah.
The sixth time you asked, so how long have you been thinking about jihad? He talked about religion.
Yeah.
And started babbling about riding horses.
Yeah.
Do you remember your partner asking for a seventh time? So how long have you been thinking about this?
I don't really recall.
Let's play that tape of the seventh and eighth time the defendant was prompted with, so how long have you been thinking about this?
So, how long you been thinking about this?
What? Look me in the eye. How long have you been thinking about Pioneer Square?
Since the last time.
Tell him what is in your heart.
Why did you and your partner ask him 8 or 9 times, how long have you been thinking about this? Isn't this part of the FBI's tried and true method of crafting evidence?
I didn't open that email. He was dangerous. We needed to assess his mindset.
The how long have you been thinking about this prompt addresses predisposition. The false outs that you and your partner are so good at are scripted to portray determination. A third tried and true prompt is the what would you do if you never met us noise. Let's listen to you and your partner work it out.
We are still going to have to bring this before the council. How do we know we can trust you, my love? What would you do if you didn't meet us, my love?
I'd go to Yemen and learn Arabic. It is hard to live here. When I fast, my friends, they're all eating. Arabic is a beautiful language for poetry. I don't remember much from before. I'll be a good Muslim and give up all this. Spend my days writing poetry, riding horses. I'll get a wife. Everyone will like my poetry. My horse will have a long rope. And if he breaks free and crosses one hill or two...
I don't know if that is going to be enough. My love, you are such a diamond in the rough.
What would you do if you never met us? I've got a brother at the embassy there and another brother at the university. Once I learn Arabic better, I can write my poetry for the brothers.
The prompt, "What would you do if you didn't meet us, my love?" is part of the FBI's tried and true path to conviction.
I didn't open any of those emails. My job was to assess a terrorist threat.
His first answer was to study Arabic in Yemen.
Yeah,
His second answer is to study Arabic in Yemen and write poetry for the brothers.
yeah.
On the fourth or fifth, "What would you have done if you didn't meet us?" prompt, he finally says something about weapons.
Yeah.
How much longer with this witness?
A few more questions, Your Honor. This is you and your partner going through a series of prompts until you get something that looks good enough for this jury.
If he said stop, we would have taken him right home.
You were not present at the July 30th unrecorded meeting between Youssef and the defendant.
True.
You don't know what instructions or coaching Youssef might have given the defendant at that meeting?
True.
Were you aware of internal FBI reports labeling the defendant as easily manipulable, religiously conflicted, looking for guidance, shy around adults?
I never opened any email. I like to go in cold.
Your perception was the defendant came to the August 19th meeting with a plan?
Yes.
Let's have a listen.
You see that Danish cartoon?
We can't let the infidels get away with that. Tell him what is in your heart.